The new film Project Hail Mary, starring Ryan Gosling and directed by Lord and Miller, has just been released, and it's shaping up to be the first big blockbuster or event film of the year, which is significant because this year is stacked with potential blockbuster films.
Here's the real blockbuster. Brace yourselves.
I mean, you have a new Christopher Nolan film, a new Steven Spielberg Alien film, a Marvel Avengers film, a new Spider-Man film, as well as the finale of Denis Villeneuve's monumental Dune trilogy. Not to mention The Devil Wears Prada 2, which, judging by the number of views for its trailer, is one of the most anticipated films of the year and occupies the coveted opening weekend in May. But first we have Project Hail Mary, and this is my full review. If you've been following along or subscribed to my channel, or even saw the YouTube short I released last week, you will know I have traveled quite a long way to get to my screening of Project Hail Mary. I flew from Calgary in Alberta, Canada, all the way to Vancouver in beautiful British Columbia to watch Project Hail Mary in glorious IMAX 70mm. Why? Well, it's only one of 16 locations worldwide to be showing Project Hail Mary in that exclusive format. More about IMAX later, but let's get back to Project Hail Mary. Now, I have not read any of author Andy Weir's books, but I loved director Ridley Scott's adaptation of The Martian, which was released in 2015 and based on Weir's 2011 novel of the same name. The Martian was a great film because it was entertaining, humorous, and suspenseful, and featured a heavyweight cast led by Matt Damon and Jessica Chastain.
Matt Damon!
It was also very well received, as it captured human resilience in the face of disaster, ingenuity, teamwork, and a positive can-do attitude to solve some daunting problems. While The Martian is a work of fiction, I believe it belongs in the same class of human-focused rescue dramas such as Apollo 13 from 1995, Alive from 1993, and the more recent 13 Lives from 2022. They're all based on real-life historical events, where many lives are in the balance and a team of humans have to find a way to rescue them. There are no villains, just a compelling narrative about the human spirit and the will to survive.
I will survive! Hey, hey!
We now have a second film adaptation of one of Weir's works, Project Hail Mary, his third science fiction novel published in 2021, and which features many of those same human elements. Directed by the team of Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who also directed 2014's The Lego Movie, Project Hail Mary arrives with plenty of expectations and almost overwhelming praise for the book. Will the film version be as well received?
Well, let's find out then, shall we?
Let's jump straight to the plot. Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, awakens in a spaceship in the middle of space with a mild bout of amnesia, and hence no idea where he is or what he's doing. As his memories slowly trickle back, he realizes he's on a mission to save Earth from an impending ice age.
Ice Age?
Due to a bunch of alien microorganisms who are sucking the energy out of our sun. Yes, that big yellow ball in our sky.
The sun!
With a lack of fuel for the return trip, it's essentially a one-way suicide mission. And Grace feels the weight of the world on his shoulders, as well as the despair and loneliness in the infinite vastness of space. What are his chances of surviving long enough to complete the mission?
I will survive! Hey, hey!
If you've seen any of the trailers or the other types of promotional material or products, there's no secret to what happens next. But if you're blissfully unaware and don't want to be spoiled, then what are you waiting for? Go watch the movie as soon as possible and come back to this review when you have. But otherwise, I'll assume you know what I'm talking about.
What are you talking about?
As the trailer unabashedly shows, Grace finds an alien rock-like creature who is also on a mission for his own species. That is, the same batch of microorganisms are destroying every star in the universe, except for one, the one we on Earth call Tau Ceti, which is located about 11 to 12 light years away. And that's where Grace and Rocky find each other and realize they have to work together to prevent the destruction of the universe. The story has a back and forth structure, where the present is Grace's mission, and the scenes of the past piece together the dilemma facing our Earth, how Grace becomes involved, and introduces Ava Stratt, played by Sandra Huller, who is the project's team leader. The majority of the film, however, is focused on Grace and Rocky, and it's their teamwork and eventual friendship that delivers the heart and all the emotions.
You got a friend in me.
If we go back to The Martian, that film was intriguing because of all the real or realistic science involved. The science itself was not necessarily difficult, as in, say, quantum physics or Einstein's theories of relativity, but involved everyday activities that many can readily understand, such as using excrement or poop as fertilizer to grow food.
I'm gonna have to science the shit out of this.
In Project Hail Mary, however, the science or scientific aspects seems to have been reduced, at least when compared with The Martian, and later confirmed via the comments of those who have read the book.
Oh, love this science shit.
Science?
Science.
Science? What sort of science?
If one considers Project Hail Mary as a film that's more about friendship and camaraderie, however, and that diversity of thought and collaboration is better than doing it alone, then this works wonders in the space of its 156-minute runtime.
It's all good.
The filmmakers do seem to give the bare minimum of what's behind the science, and then move on. But that's fine since, as I said, the film is more about the friendship, the warm character interplay, and how two different souls, two different species, overcome their language barriers and physical differences to solve the universal problem.
To save the world.
There were some moments, though, where I would have liked just a little bit more explanation, without necessarily losing the audience. But I also understand that if the science is not relatable or a little too esoteric or advanced, viewers may find it hard to follow and lose interest.
Are you yawning?
The film is quite long at over 2.5 hours, but it entertains throughout. The jolly, almost happy soundtrack, both the score by Daniel Pemberton and the curated list of songs, and the persistent, gentle humor help with the pacing and keeps proceedings both positive and optimistic. But I also thought the overall tone was just a tad too light-hearted, especially given the gravity, pun not intended, of the overall situation.
What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
If you compare and contrast with The Martian, that film also had plenty of music and levity. But the music, mostly disco-era songs, was built into the story and character development, with the Matt Damon character Mark Watney playing and listening to those songs, rather than the background accompaniment we hear in Project Hail Mary.
I will survive. Hey, hey.
Then there's the humor. In The Martian, this flowed naturally from the main character's predicament and how he tackled it. Some of the humor in Project Hail Mary was also a result of the characters' reactions and interactions with each other. But in general, I thought the tone was again a touch too buoyant or upbeat.
Funny how?
Why do I think the tone is a little too joyous? Well, compare the size or scale of the dilemma in both films. The Martian was about saving one man. But in Project Hail Mary, it's literally the fate of the entire universe.
It's the end of the world.
Don't get me wrong, the optimism and hope in the film is what wins audiences over. But I would also like to see the dire straits faced by the entire universe reflected more as well.
Houston, we have a problem.
We are in dire straits.
If we're discussing music for spacefaring, end-of-the-world type films, one should also compare with Hans Zimmer's more somber but still majestic score for Christopher Nolan's masterpiece Interstellar from 2014. Zimmer delivered a gripping set of music that felt appropriate for the tone and direction of the film. Daniel Pemberton's score for Project Hail Mary is also very good, but as I mentioned, maybe just a tad too jovial. Anyway, enough about the music. Is there anyone watching who was blown away by the concept of time dilation, like me, that was explored in Interstellar?
On this planet's time, she just landed hours ago.
I'm like, boom.
Well, Project Hail Mary contains a subtle nod. No explanations, but it makes logical and perfect sense when you see it.
I've waited years. How many years? By now it must be...
It's 23 years.
I'm like, boom, you looking for this?
Now let's move on to the acting. Ryan Gosling is an excellent and compelling lead. He's appropriately humble when called for, and occasionally selfish. I mean, it's the end of the world we're talking about here, right? But he's also open-minded and charismatic, which helps given he's in pretty much the entire film. In some ways, his character, Ryland Grace, reminds me of Nicolas Cage's character, Dr. Stanley Goodspeed, in the Michael Bay action film The Rock from 1996. Gosling's Grace is a small fish in a gigantic ocean who's called upon to save the universe. There are sacrifices to be made, and he owns those decisions. Though I'm not in his shoes, and hopefully will never be, I can kind of relate to some of his choices and reactions through the course of the film. Gosling nails the characterization. If the audience is not attached to Ryland Grace, or at least take a liking to him, then the movie would not work as well.
They think he's a righteous dude.
Then we have Sandra Huller, who came to prominence, at least for Hollywood audiences, with two films in 2023, Anatomy of a Fall and The Zone of Interest. Huller plays the other main character, Ava Stratt, an efficient but officious leader who's given the authority to direct the universe-saving project. Apparently she's more hard-edged in the book, while in the film she's given a modicum of empathy, even if she has to make some difficult choices. Huller gives Stratt the right amount of pragmatism and objectivity, though she may come off as a little cold or off-putting.
Bring in the fembots! Scott! Send in the guy!
Of course, the third main player is Rocky, who's brought to life via a combination of animatronics and old-school puppeteering. Rocky is voiced by James Ortiz, who's the master behind the puppet. Rocky's appearance is not much to look at. I mean, he resembles a multi-limbed pile of rocks that just happens to move and is alive. But it's the character and the selflessness that will have audiences cheering. Moving on to IMAX. I didn't realize Project Hail Mary had full IMAX sequences. That is, scenes shot in a 1.43:1 aspect ratio, until the promotional wagon ramped up just before tickets went on sale. While it wasn't shot on film, unlike many of Christopher Nolan's films, such as Oppenheimer, The Dark Knight, and of course Interstellar, I'm always excited to see a film that features IMAX 1.43:1 imagery, even if I have to fly there. As an aside, this is not my first traveling rodeo in my relentless or tireless pursuit of IMAX 1.43:1 films. I've flown to Toronto, Ontario for Dune Part 2 as well as Tenet, and flown to Regina, Saskatchewan for the 10th anniversary re-release of Interstellar. And also driven to Regina for Dune Part 2, though that was quite an adventure in itself. But I'll leave that story for another time.
Sometime in the future, when we're old, maybe then.
As for the IMAX 1.43:1 scenes in Project Hail Mary, it's always a pleasure to see how giant the image is. It never gets old if you get my drift. We also got the Dune Part 3 trailer and the Odyssey prologue in 1.43:1. I had seen that prologue previously, but not in 1.43:1. And both trailers were spectacular in 1.43:1.
That's amazing!
Overall, I would say Project Hail Mary's visuals are not as consistently astounding or as eye-popping when compared with Nolan's Interstellar, which I am using repeatedly for comparison since both films share similar plot trajectories. This may be due to the fact that Project Hail Mary was shot digitally and then converted in post to 70mm film. Similar to the process for Dune 2, which makes sense given Australian cinematographer Greg Fraser shot both Project Hail Mary and Dune Part 2. As another point of comparison, I recall how crisp and detailed the picture was in Oppenheimer's 15% 70mm film print. But then it's been claimed that 15% 70mm film is equivalent to about 16K, 18K resolution, which is much higher than even the current 4K we are used to watching when at home. This is not to say Project Hail Mary's picture is soft or anything like that. No siree. When put next to another digitally shot movie, Project Hail Mary looks amazing. Just that in relation to a true IMAX 15/70 film, that is one shot on film rather than converted to film, it may not appear to be as detailed.
But that's okay.
Regardless of the technical aspects, when you arrive at the main action sequence in Project Hail Mary, I would not hesitate to say that most people will be amazed at the glorious colors, the visual wonder, and just the simple splendor and majesty of it all.
It's lovely.
The film's directors, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, come equipped with a pretty solid resume, but also some baggage. I was actually surprised at how few films they had actually directed, given the prominence of their names. There were some earlier successes, such as Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs in 2009, 21 Jump Street in 2012, and The Lego Movie in 2014. But the last movie they directed was the sequel 22 Jump Street, also in 2014. In between, they infamously parted ways with the Star Wars prequel Solo, A Star Wars Story from 2018, due to the usual creative differences. But then they also produced the spectacular Spider-Verse animated films, which are Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse from 2018 and the sequel Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse from 2023. If nothing else, they know how to produce or direct populist entertainment that don't necessarily vie for Oscars recognition, but can put people in seats. For Project Hail Mary, I think they've hit the right mix of drama, humor, impressive visuals, wonder, emotion, and hope to just about guarantee a crowd-pleasing success. In summary, Project Hail Mary is a welcome dose of optimism, positivity, and camaraderie. I would have liked the film to lean more into the science, but that's just me. And I understand that the filmmaker's job is to make it accessible to the widest audience possible. That being said, I think most will enjoy the story, and especially the warm friendship between Grace and Rocky. Finally, though I understand why Rocky was revealed in the trailers, for marketing purposes of course, it would have been a nice surprise if that was left for the film. But it's certainly not a deal breaker. As mentioned earlier, I flew from Calgary all the way to Vancouver to watch Project Hail Mary in IMAX 70mm, which, to repeat, is just one of 16 locations worldwide with this privilege. Was the travel and all the expense worth it? Unequivocally, yes.
Yes! 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 Yes!
So what's my rating for Project Hail Mary on the JockPot movie scores table? I don't think it's as good as The Martian, let alone the masterpiece that is Interstellar. But it's a feel-good entertainment that also tugs at the emotions and the heartstrings. For that, I'd rate Project Hail Mary a very good 8 out of 10. It's the first big blockbuster event film of the year. So have you seen Project Hail Mary? What are your thoughts? Would you have liked more science in the film? Or more Grace and Rocky? How about a sequel? Now there's a thought. Get working, Andy Weir. Anyway, let me know in the comments below. And if you like my content, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much.